Okay, this is the second lesson in Syriac, and today we're just going to go through. Well, we're going to do a bunch of things today, but personal pronouns. We're going to start right at the top here, and then we're going to talk about a couple of different things about adjectives and nouns. So the scholastic personal pronouns are intuitive in their forms and easily memorized, since all the second person pronouns contain a tau, and all third person pronouns begin with a he. So these are just little ways to help you see the patterns, and looking for patterns is going to really be beneficial for you as you're learning this language. So let me just go through it. So if you want to say I, it's inna. Inna. Very similar to the Chaldean ana, just a vowel change. Inna. If you want to say you, it's at. Now there's a batlana over the noon usually, at, but here I'm leaving the noon. So ant, which apparently is similar to the Arabic. So you can learn it as ant, but it's pronounced at. Same thing with the feminine is also at, but I'm spelling it anti because there's a silent yod at the end. And then the noon is also silenced. So in your book, you can put a batlana over the noon here, over this noon, and over this yod. So inna is I, at is you feminine as well, with a silent yod at the end. Who means he means she. A little bit confusing, but what are you going to do? So who is he? He is she. Inna, at, who, he. If you want to say we, it's hnan. You plural is atton for masculine and attin for feminine. Again, it's spelled anton and anten, but there's a batlana over the noon. Atton, attin. They is hinnon for masculine and hinnin. So let me say them all. Inna, at, who, he, hnan, atton, attin, hinnon, hinnin. So that's the pronouns. Just memorize them as if they're vocab. But if you want to see some patterns, there's a noon in both first person ones, inna and hnan. There are taus in all second persons, at, atton, attin. So this particle ant is in all four of them. And then in the third person, there's always a he. It starts with a he. Who, he, hinnon, hinnan. If patterns like that help you memorize it, pay attention to them. I would suspect that for most people, they would help. Now, you combine a personal pronoun and a noun, and you can write a sentence. That is, there's no need for a to be verb in sentences like this. So if you were to say, melka'at, it means you are the king. Even though it just says you and king, you don't have to say are here. Melka'at, by itself, simply means you are the king. We are his people and the sheep of his flock. Let's look at this. Ammeh hnan. U'ana d'mar'ithe. So amma is people. Ammeh means his people. We know that from last lesson. So ammeh is his people. Hnan is we. So ammeh hnan is we are his people. You don't have to say to be. Ammeh hnan. So we are his people, and ana d'mar'ithe, the sheep of his flock. Ana d'mar'ithe. So mar'itha is a flock. Mar'ithe is his flock. We know that again from those endings. Mottol means because or for. Mottol t'au maria. Now this is a new thing. This isn't exactly this. Mottol t'au u maria. What did I just do? In the last example, the initial he is not pronounced. This is a new thing. So I did this just to introduce this next part. This is called the copula because it couples with the previous word. Ta'u, ta'u. The copula generally uses the third person singular pronouns who and he, and you put a batlana over the he. So you don't pronounce the he. It's not tawu, it's tawu. However, you can also use the first and third person pronouns with alternate forms. So, in other words, what I want to say in this paragraph is these pronouns can mean I, you, he, she, we, you, they, but they can also be a way to say is. They can also be a way to say something is something. That's what the copula is. The copula is a version of the to be verb. So here's the version that's used if you're going to explicitly use these pronouns to mean is. Na. So instead of inna, it's just na. I'm going to show you in a second how to use this, how to do this. At is the same. Hu becomes u. Hnan becomes nan. You see, this is erased. Aton is the same. Hinnon, they, becomes innon. So the he is sort of softened to a alap. The feminine is here and it's similar. Now, what does this mean? What am I saying? Let's take a look at some examples. I am the good shepherd. Inna, inna means I. Inna na ra'aya tawa. Inna na. Innana, the way this is usually pronounced. Innana. But it's I. And then it's the word for I again, except it's used the copula form na. So innana, so inna means I. Innana means I am. And then after that you can put ra'aya tawa. So ra'ya is shepherd, tawa is good. And just like in Chaldean, the adjective comes second. Ra'ya tawa. You are the resurrector of our bodies. At is you. Now look what happened. At, hu, attu, attu. What just happened here? Look what just happened. You have the second person pronoun at, which means you. But then instead of saying at, which you could say, you could actually take the third person and combine it with the second person at. Sorry for scrolling so much. So now you have at, who, you are. So you can combine the third person, who and he, with the second person. So it doesn't have to be at, it could just be it could be attu. This is actually a very common usage, and this phrase is part of maybe the most famous prayer in the Chaldean liturgy, the La Chomara. So at, who, attu. You are. Nahmana, the root here is nahm, which means to bring back to life, to raise, to resurrect. Nahmana, it's paghrain. Paghra means body. Delath means of. And ain means our, plural. You already know all of this. So, attu nahmana paghrain. You are the resurrector of our bodies. Okay? You are the salt of the earth. You plural, atun. And again, we're going to take the third person, atun innon. You could say atun atun to say you are, but you could also take the third person and combine it with the second person. Atun innon. You are. Milha, salt, id'ara, of the earth. He is the Lord our God. Now you want to say who means he. You know that. He is. And then you can say who, but there's actually just a special word for this. Who is sort of abbreviated as who you. Who you is just who. The second head turns into yoth, and it's like a little bit easier to pronounce. Who you, he is. Maria Alahan, the Lord, Alahan, our God. Our Alahan, God. So note that it's quite normal for the third person copulas such as u and non to be used with second person pronouns. It's also worth noting here that the word who you is a combination of the word who used twice. Here's a chart showing the most common combinations. Innana, I am. At, you are. Attu, you are. Or it could just be spelled attu as one word. Who you means he is. Hanannan, we are. Aton, ton, you are, or aton in non. So it's two ways to say the same thing. This is three ways to spell the same thing. Aton, ton, aton in non, and then they are hinnon in non. So I am is innana. You are can be at, attu, or attu, spelled this way. He is who you. We are is hnannan. You plural are is aton ton or aton innon. They are is hinnon innon. The feminine is here, basically the same. At. This is pronounced the same way. He is the only difference. All the rest are the same. Atin tin or atin innin for you plural, and then hinnin innin. If you've got the pronouns memorized, these should be pretty easy to memorize. So if you're memorizing this chart here, this is just kind of derivative of it. Okay. The copula can also be used with the demonstrative pronouns shown here. So here are the demonstratives. If you want to say this, and the thing you're pointing to is a masculine noun, you say hana. If it's feminine, you say hade. Hana is this, masculine. Hade is this, feminine. These objects close to you is halen, and it's the same whether it's masculine or feminine. Halen. We usually don't pronounce this yod. It's not halein. That's just not usually the way it's pronounced. Halen. So hana, hade, halen. If you want to say that, some object that's far away from you, you say how. It's spelled, the letters are the same as who, which means he, that man. But it's got this long vowel on it. How, that thing over there, it could even be that man, but it's that man over there. Hi, again, he means she. Hi means that woman, that female thing. Hanon, hanon, hanin. So hinnon, they, becomes hanon, those men. Hinnin, they, feminine, becomes hanin, those women over there. So it's kind of like, you kind of imagine like hanin, those women, hanon, those women, how, that man. Okay. Some examples. No, so what you can do is you can take these demonstratives and add these copulas to them. Actually, these copulas to them. And you can say this is, and these are, and so on. So let's take a look. If you want it, so in Mass, famously, this is my body and this is my blood. Ha now. So this, hana, ha now. This is. Bagra is body. Bagri is my body. And again, if you want to use the sort of old, kind of traditional, kind of dumb pronunciation, you can say ha now, bagra. And the other silent. If that makes you feel smart, go for it. Ha now, bagri. Ha now, dimmi or dim. If you're going to use that old rule. Now look at what I did here. Ha na u. This is, or you can spell it like this. Ha now, and it means the same thing. This is my blood. If you want to say this is the queen, ha de. So this feminine. Ha dei. This is ha de. So it's the feminine copula. Ha de melikta. This is the day the Lord has made. Ha now, this is Yoma. This is the day. Da'awad Maria. You don't know how to make this verb yet, but this is the day. Here's the Lord, Maria, made. We'll learn about verbs in a few weeks or a few lessons. In the first example, you notice that the demonstrative hana and the copula u can be joined with the word into one word hana. Here's a full chart. Ha now, this is, or ha now, spelled like that. Ha they, or ha they, this is feminine. Halin inin, halin inin, or these feminine. Sorry, this should be halin innon. That's a typo. Halin innon. How who, hanon innon. So these Those are hanun in nun. Hai, that is feminine. Hanin in nin, those are feminine. Remember, we're going to go through all of this again when we go through text. And so right now I'm doing kind of a speed run through the entire grammar just to get sort of to wet your minds with it so that when we go through it in Thaxton, it's sort of already familiar to you. Okay. Okay. Now, a couple other things this chapter. Affirmative adjectives. We've already actually seen this a couple of lines ago. You didn't notice it. Where was it? At some point we saw ta'u Maria. Here it is. Mutul ta'u Maria. We already saw what I'm about to explain. This use of the adjective. So let's look at it more systematically. While there are three states of the noun in the scholastic Aramaic, there are two of the adjective. Don't worry about the three states of the noun yet. We'll talk about that someday. There are two states of the adjective, the descriptive and the affirmative. It's going to have a different name when we get to Robinson. The state of the adjective that is closest to the English usage is the descriptive. And we have seen this in the previous chapter. So the adjectives we're used to when you say the red shirt, smoka, it just means red. That's the usual use, okay? Well, descriptive adjectives do simply that. They describe a noun. Affirmative adjectives affirm something of the noun. They do not say the good king. They say the king is good. And so when you want to use an adjective in this way, not the good king, the king is good. In English, the word good doesn't change its form in these two usages. But in Syriac, it does. Adjectives used in this way take on a different form. So if you want to say the man is good, you don't say tawa, you say tao. It's shortened. Tao. If you want to say the woman is good, you don't say tauta, you say tawa. Now that's very, very annoying because the feminine version of this affirmative adjective is the same as the masculine of the descriptive adjective. So if you want to say a good man, you say goratawa. If you want to say the woman is good, you would say she is tawa. So it's instead of tota, it becomes tawa. It's a little bit annoying, but you just have to memorize it. If you want to say the men are good, plural, tawin, the plural for feminine is tawan. This is just a form. You can take any adjective and it's going to look something like this. Now let's take a look at how this could be used. Here's another example. If you want to say the man is holy, you don't say qaddisha. You trim the ending and it becomes qaddish. This is the man is holy. If you want to say the woman is holy, it becomes qaddisha. It's weird. It's, kind of sounds not quite right especially if you already speak Chaldean, but that's just the way it is. They are holy, qaddishin. They feminine, qaddishan. So just look at the endings, they're the same. Tawin, qaddishin, tawan, qaddishan. So adjectives in this form are often used with the copula described above. So what you can do is you can take these adjectives and combine them with, all the way up here, these copulas. If you want to say he is good or he is holy. So let's take a look at this. Maria tawa. This is just a regular form of the adjective. It means the good Lord. You can say, though, tau Maria. Tau Maria. Good is the Lord. That's part of a psalm, Psalm 100 that we pray in the morning. Tau Maria. So you don't say tawa'u, you use this contracted form. Okay, tau Maria. If you want to say the holy martyrs, sahde qaddishe, the ordinary form of the adjective. Sahde qaddishe, which you already know because you went through the Chaldean grammar already. Sahde qaddishe. If you want to say holy are the martyrs, you use this form, qaddishin. Qaddishin in nun, that's the copula, sahde. Holy are the martyrs. Okay? So the affirmative form of the adjective used with the copula produces a full statement rather than just a description of the noun. Now, one more thing that I want to teach you. We're going to go all the way up back to page 118, which I skipped before because it really should go in this chapter instead of the one it was in. So I'm going to scroll all the way up to 118. And we're going to talk about what's called the construct state of the noun. So, where are we at? One 18. Oh, I don't, yeah, okay, here it is. 119, my bad. So 119, not 119, the possessive, we're calling them composite nouns. This is also called the construct state. We're going to get to that in Robinson. When using nouns in the definite form, possessive constructions are made using the letter deleth, meaning of. So if you want to say the head of the angels, Reshad Malache, this also means archangel, but the head of the angels, Reshad Malache. If you want a different way to say of this, of that, you use this composite form, also called the construct state. It's an alternate, more classical way to form a possessive construction. It looks similar to this indefinite form that I talked about above. Don't worry about that right now. We'll get to that in Robinson. And it is used for a possessive meaning and in various constructions. For example, Reshad Malache, what do? Instead of saying Reshad Malache, the chief of the angels, you get rid of the ending a and you get rid of the deleth. And you say Resh Malache, and it means the same thing. Resh Malache means the same thing as Resha Dmalache. Rabba Dhaila, the great one of the army. Rabba Dhaila. You trim the ending of Rabba, and you get rid of the deleth. It becomes Rab Haila. Rabba Dhaila becomes Rab Haila. The head, the great one of the army, that is the general. So Rab Haila is a general. Malka Dmelke, king of kings. Again, you trim the ending of the first word, and you get rid of the deleth. Mlech Melke. You soften it, which is, don't worry about the softening. Malka Dmelke becomes Mlech Melke, the king of kings. Haile Idruha, armies of spirit. Here's a special form. Haile Ruha. So now you have a special ending when it's plural. So let's take a look at it. So as you notice, the complete inflection of the composite form of the noun is this. Kthawa becomes kthau. Kthawe, books, becomes kthawe. So it uses this a ending. So the books of the king, kthawe melka. Kthauta, like a feminine book, becomes kthawath. So there's a little bit of vowel movement here. Kthawath. So the writing of the so-and-so becomes kthawath. Kthawatha, the letters plural, becomes kthawath. So this has a skapa kthawath, this has a pthaha kthawath. Okay. You will see this very, very often in writing, and I wouldn't even worry much about memorizing this. Maybe some of these forms like these are worth memorizing, but you're going to see this so often that I think you're just going to get used to it. And I'll point it out as it comes along in our lessons. Now, I'm going to go back to page 131. And I know this is a long lesson, maybe. I actually don't know how long I've been recording, but let's look through the exercises. So here's some vocab for you on page 131. Nouns. In Chaldean, we say baba. In Syriac, it's abba, or again, not a very well justified rule, but there's some rule somewhere that says you're supposed to pronounce this awa. Not something I agree with, but again, do whatever your bishop tells you to do. Awa, but abba is maybe a more sort of technically correct way to say it. Oyutha means harmony. The word for woman in Chaldean is bachta. In Gushma, it's atha. Atha means woman or wife. Comfort is buya'a, is just comfort. Ptayilutha is care. Hauba is a debt. To'yutha is error, like a mistake, falsehood. Taibutha means grace. Kushapa is supplication or begging. Mdabranutha is providence. These are all really important words, so I would memorize all these. Miltha is word. This has an irregular plural. Miltha, the plural of this is mille. Nisyona is temptation. You see here that in the Our Father. Nosha is soul. Adora is helper. Otra is a cloud. Amtana is gloom. Paha is a net or a trap. Snegra is advocate. I think that's probably a Greek word. Satha means filth. Soyana is will. Qarawa is a war. Regla is leg. Radhopa is a persecutor. Rauma is a height, or it could even mean a hill. Rauma. Shwila is a path or a road. Shraga is a lamp. In Chaldean, we'd say shra'a, but shraga. Pleading is tachshota. Now, if you're paying attention, it actually has the same root as kushapa. Kap, shin, pe, kap, shin, pe. Tachshota. Okay? And then otra is that's just a typo. Don't worry about that. Okay. Here's some adjectives. Gaia is radiant. Dliha is troubled. So the deleth is actually part of the root here. The root here is dilah. So dliha is troubled. So waters that are shaking are dliha. Nagira is patient, long-suffering. Srida is adorable. Riga is desirable. Shawaharana is boastful. Shhiqa is crushed. Tmiha is wonderful. Just some good vocab for you to learn. Now, exercises, I do encourage you to do these. Okay. Add the pronouns to some nouns. Maybe not 7 times, but do it. Let me read these sentences for you. Inna abakhna u'attu bri. To translate that, pretty easy. Hana hauba ithau sa'tha soyani. It's all here in this. Oh, this is not actually this word ithau. I'm glad I read this. This means is. We're going to learn that next lesson. So ithau, everything else you should be able to translate. So this is the word for is. Another way to say is. So just have that in mind as you translate. Rawa hana aleik ithau. There's ithau again. Did I really do that to you guys? Yeah, sorry. So this again, this means it is. Rawa hana aleik ithau. Hinnon innon radhope taibutha. You should be able to translate that. Shragai milthach l'reglei unuhra leshwilei. I think you should be able to translate all of these. Remember the endings. And if you don't know the word nuhra, I don't know if it was in the vocab, it means light. I think the rest of this we just went over. Qadam kursiya Rama. I think we should know all this. D'alahutha Ithe buya'a debnei nasha. This might have to be ethal. Anyway, it means is as well. You should probably be able to translate this. Shohranai atfa. Shohranai atfa. All right, and you can translate these, in this case, into Syriac, not into Chaldean. Okay, good. See you next week. We'll get into some verbs. Or next class. Peace out.